Hold on. Thank you very much for coming today. I'm Elaine Abbott with Sunrise County Economic Council. And you've been hearing from me for months about this, so I'm so glad you were able to join. And we are joined here today by Matrix Design Group. But the first thing I would like to have everybody do before Matrix takes over this, sorry, I'm still letting people in, is to, if you guys can just go around and say what community you're with, that would be great. Yep, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
I am Dana Porter and I am the town clerk, tax collector, treasurer for the town of Wesley.
Thank you, Dana. And Julie?
I am Julie Ginn and I am the town administrator for the town of Steuben.
Thank you. And Dean?
Hi, Dean Preston, and I'm the Unorganized Territories Supervisor of Washington County.
Thank you, Dean. And Joanne? Oh, you're echoing terribly. You're on here twice. Okay, so that's Joanne Champney with the town of Columbia. And Chris, I recognize that you're here, but I'm just gonna ask you if you just wanna introduce yourself really quick, Chris.
You mean me, Elaine?
I do mean you, Chris, thanks.
Okay, I didn't know if there was other Chris's. My name is Chris Wade. I'm the tribal broadband consultant for the Wabanaki Nation via Four Directions.
Thank you. And so now I'm going to turn this over to Matrix Design Group to take it away. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Great. Yep.
That would be great.
I'm Lauren Castle. I work with Matrix as well. I also work with one of our other companies called Millennium. It's just the sister company of Matrix. But I'm kind of in the region. So they asked if I would be a friendly face up here and kind of help you guys and guide the process along. And then I also brought Ron with me as well. And you'll notice our last names are similar. That is because I am his daughter. I've worked for the company pretty much since I was 16, so I know it very well in and out. I've been with him on a lot of these fiber to the home projects, and I found it very interesting. And we loved going into rural communities and helping out where we could. So I stuck with it and, graduated from college and came back and said, hey, give me a job, please. Eventually, my last name will be changing. I just got married, so I'll be green soon, but congratulations. Thank you.
And thanks for, and you know what, guys, I forgot.
Yes.
I forgot two communities here.
Oh, yes.
I'm Jessie and from the town of Columbia Falls.
Okay.
And Diane Smith from Jonesport.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry, everybody.
Okay, I'm Ron Castle. I started this company a long time ago, and it'll probably help everybody if I gave some background on how we actually wound up here. So my first career, as I was mentioning earlier, I started with one of the original cable television companies that became the Comcast empire. That was a long time ago. I've been doing this for 44 years. We were fortunate enough to have Bell Labs in our backyard, and we started working with Bell Lab on some prototype laser systems that allowed for delivery of cable television over fiber. That was back in 1982. We worked very closely with them and we developed the first laser systems that in essence became what today's modern fiber networks are. So I've been working with fiber my entire life. Our company, the parent company, Millennium Communications, is a contracting company out of New Jersey that works mid-Atlantic states. And we started out providing our services to every major carrier there is. And you'll recognize, you know all the major carriers. There are several carriers that are behind the scenes that nobody really knows about. We've worked on undersea cables, going between continents. We've worked all over the country. And we started seeing an opportunity for, in our local area, New Jersey, for fiber networks to help communities start taking control of their own destiny. We began building fiber to the building, it started with the Board of Education. So we would see in a town, we're much more consolidated in New Jersey, as I'm sure you all know. So one district might have 5 or 6 schools, and they wanted to share services amongst those 5 or 6 schools. We started building private fiber networks for those school districts. And then those school districts would want to hook up with other towns. They just kept getting bigger and bigger. So we built what I would call an industrial fiber network that connected building to building to building to building. I think around 2008, I started personally looking at, could we take this model that we built and build fiber to the home into rural communities that have no chance of a fiber network, a cable television company, anybody coming in and providing service for them. So I was in Colchester, Vermont, where Lauren now lives, and I started reading about Burlington Telecom, which was a fiber to the home project that was struggling, but we got involved with the director there and ultimately became the engineering company that put together the EC Fiber project in the southern part of the state. There's 23 towns originally. So it was 23 communities, much like your situation. It's the same thing. There was nobody that was going to come in and offer them service. Consolidated, I think at that point it was Fairpoint. I believe they're now consolidated. They were on the third or fourth gyration of bankruptcy back then. And then they just said, no, we're not going to offer broadband to these communities. We went in as a company and again became the lead engineer on it, and they had all their funding set up to build 23 towns, and the bond market fell out. So they came to me and said, we need you to design a network that would be able to get fiber to all these homes, and we need you to cut the price in half of what our original budget was. And we did. We designed a network that enabled it to go into much less dense areas and still be profitable, be manageable. You can't lose money on these things. It's just, you can't do that. So we did that, and we worked with them for quite a while they got on their feet, and now they have 23 towns. All 23 towns are connected. It is it's an MUD. So all 23 towns have a representative on a governing board. The select board selects those members to the governing board, and the governing board oversees the operation of the project.
And MUD is a municipal utility district?
Correct. Very successful. It is a community-owned network, and they have an operating company that operates it for them. We took that model. When we finished up working with EC Fiber, we also became investors in the project because, again, the bond market bailed or failed, actually didn't bail. So we became early investors in it to try to get the project off the ground and show it was feasible. And it was very feasible. It worked very well. We then took that same model and we built a couple of other fiber to the home projects for communities where they actually went out and bonded money, put the project out to bid, and we bid on it, and one of them was our contracting one. We then worked with a couple of communities in Massachusetts. There's one project in Petersham right now that it's a public-private partnership. Petersham put up X amount of money. Matrix Connected Fiber, which is the fiber optic division, the fiber to the home division of our companies, put up a certain amount of money, and that project has been up and running for 3 years, and it's a huge success. It's an area of Massachusetts that had nothing. They didn't even have dial-up, or they had dial-up rather. I'm sorry, they didn't have DSL.
Yeah.
So they are now working with a network that has a capability of a gigabit symmetrical in each direction over fiber. State of the art network. It's something that you find in every major city, town. This is, it's state of the art and it's in an area that, again, I think it's 11 homes a mile. It's working. So that brings us to Maine. We have people that are up in Massachusetts. We have an office in Worcester. And we have been working the entire region. We get to know people in the areas, and people have been speaking out the company to talk to us about how you do this, how you do it for yourself, how you do it in partnership with us. What's the modeling to use? And we just go out and we talk about it. And we can help people to build it for themselves, build it with the help of us in partnership. There's several ways you can get this done. And I'm here to answer any questions you have about that. I have a very boring PowerPoint thing. I'm not gonna show it to you. I think it's, if you want it, we'll leave you some copies and
An electronic
but it's
version.
much better than
Oh, that'd be great
the
too.
experience
Yeah.
that we've had
Yeah.
and answer your questions as to how do you think it would work? Anything you want to know about it, we've gotten experience of all of it, and a lot of battle wounds.
Yeah, well, to help facilitate this conversation, I am unaware of any of the communities wanting to own.
Okay.
Their own infrastructure.
Mhm.
Your towns, I don't think, have any interest in owning and operate, no, you have no interest in ownership.
Yeah,
So what the communities are looking for is an opportunity to fiber to their communities. With BEAD funding, you know, the $272 million coming to Maine, how this region of Washington County can finally get connected to the world.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that's why we're here, is to find out from you guys what that would look like for this region.
Okay. So the biggest thing that I would say to everybody on the call, everybody in the room, it's got to start with a grassroots effort. Your citizens have to be aware of this and they have to want it. Because as I have a lineman's eye, I guess you'd call it. When I drive down the street, one eye's looking at the road and the other one's looking at the pole. She was there.
The whole way here. He's like, oh, they have cable, oh, they have fiber.
When you get into some of the town propers, right here where we're sitting, there's a cable television provider here. That generally creates a problem for having success in a fiber to the home. It helps. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you have large densities, but all the communities here, they don't. If you take out the two major towns here, we're down to 7 homes a mile. That's a big lift. So you would really need the two towns. It's Eastport, and I think it was, what was the other one?
Perry, maybe?
Perry or the bigger, oh no, Millbridge is another big town. You need to have those towns and the residents within those towns say, yeah, we would do this. We would be part of a project that gets the whole county connected. Because in Mass here, I have 20 towns on this sheet in front of me that Zach gave me. You've met Zach?
I have.
Oh, okay. It comes out to about 12 homes a mile.
Okay.
That's teetering on the edge. That's getting to the point where, okay, you would have to start subsidizing something to get this to work. The budgetary process that we used for East Central Fiber, it was 12 homes a mile, but the cost of service was $110 a month per subscriber. So it's you have to balance everything out, is what I'm saying. The first thing you need when you're doing this as communities, as a county, is the residents to say, we're interested. We want to be part of this project. And that's the hardest part. That's the biggest lift of all of this, is trying to get the residents, at least they're backing from a standpoint of, yes, we would be interested in having the service. They don't have to commit day one and sign a contract. There's no contracts or anything like that, but you have to get their support.
So I think what Matt and I were speaking about too is sort of like the next steps here and owing to, we're trying to find those territories that we don't have much information on to sort of add to this sheet and then get a letter of support from your communities that you want us to move forward in collecting information and you know, giving you guys surveys and all of those marketing materials that we've used in other townships like this and other projects like this to sort of gather all the information needed to submit for the grant to even see like what kind of those steps would look like. But I think that's, you know, as Ron was saying, where you guys start is pushing it out to the communities and seeing the interest among everybody and seeing how many towns you can get to say, let's all go in together and do this.
So let me ask a question that's probably on all your minds right now is, are you talking a community contribution?
We're talking community interest at this point. So there's a lot of grant money available.
Yes.
We're working with a couple of towns up here now. We're very close to signing off on the grant money to get them service. Pembroke and,
Fayette and.
Will.
I'm sorry, Will, right, I'm sorry.
Yep, Pembroke was.
So we're close. And the fact that the state is putting out grants takes care of a whole lot of it. It does. That's the hardest lift is financing. But it's community support. So it's not cash, it's not, you know, it's not somebody putting up money, it's community support. People saying that we're going to support, for instance, Eastport is fully covered. Eastport has the most homes per mile, it's 50 homes per mile. If Eastport came on and said, okay, we're 100% behind this, we're going to support the entire thing, that goes a long way to making the areas. There's a couple of towns here that have, there was one I was looking at yesterday, less than 3 homes a mile. That would be impossible to build on its own. It would be just absolutely so cost prohibitive. But if you take the entire mass of all the towns in the county, and we can get to a 12 homes per mile aggregate, it's buildable. It works.
Okay.
The whole plan works, the whole process, and it really is, it's an engineering exercise that I have to do, and it's how much fiber I need to put up. How much does it cost to do that? There's all of those variables that go into it, and then the 12 homes per mile. And it's not even 12 homes signing up for it, it's 12 homes per mile signing up, having that density, because then you're shooting for 50 to 60% take rate, which means 50 to 60% of the homes take it. We hope that 90% take it. It's helpful for the network, it's helpful for the community. But you know, sometimes people just, you know.
So I just want to understand the model. I'm sorry.
I was just going to,
Yeah.
1 second, before I open this up for questions, I just want to, in full disclosure, that these fine folks are actually headed to Eastport. I know they keep talking about Eastport and the population density. They are meeting with the Eastport City Council this evening. So stay tuned on that, because there's a lot of density there.
They'll hear the same thing that I'm talking about here. This really has to be, it has to come from the communities. If it doesn't start there, you just can't come in and with a build it and they will come model. It's very difficult to get people to sign on. We found this when we did EC Fibers project. If they had an incumbent cable carrier, as bad as that carrier was, it was difficult for them to go away from it because they're so used to the set-top boxes. They've got their DVRs set up, they've got all this set up, and it's hard for them to make that switch. It's not impossible, but it's hard. People just, they don't react quickly.
I think a problem that you might run into, we don't have the best cell phone service either. And Spectrum just started Spectrum Mobile. In order to have Spectrum Mobile, you need to have Spectrum Internet.
Yeah.
So that might be a deterrent
Yeah.
for a lot of people too.
Yeah, those are things that the network can accomplish. It can, you know, it can fix those things, a lot of them. So if the entire county had service and enough people signed on to it, the equipment that we put in the homes will act as repeaters, and that can help improve cell phone coverage throughout the community as well. So
Thanks. Go ahead, Diane. I'm sorry. I interrupted.
Yeah, I just want to understand the hardware piece of this, the physical. So you're talking about communities signing up for some company to be putting other actual fiber around. So it'd be competing against fiber that's already there, some of which just goes down the highway and never goes to a home, but some of which does go to homes, coaxial or that type of
Correct.
stuff. So we are talking about a physical property, physical.
That's correct.
Okay, and then the question is how does your fiber compete with what might already be out there? But then you've also got the whole connectivity. The one other thing, because I've been on the broadband committee, trying to get that community awareness is tough. So if you've got
We do.
models that work, that would be really, and the other piece, and I'll try to shut up. But the other thing, and I know this because of the discussions I had with my husband, is the kids are gonna want it, but the retired people, they don't even know what we're talking about in a lot of respect. So how, the breadth of,
I can answer some of those questions. You'd be surprised at how many retired people know exactly what it is.
Yes.
They want it. And you'd be surprised for some of the reasons. I'm not going to discuss them here. But, the one thing that we found in the East Central Fiber region, which is very similar to what we saw when I was coming out here from Bangor here, it's very similar, is they're afraid their communities are dying. And the young people are moving away because they can't gain access to these networks. And they felt that putting these networks in would at least give them a chance at keeping those younger people. And I'm not talking about 10-year-olds, I'm talking 20, 30-year-olds, keeping them around. It enables them to work at more home businesses, which who doesn't want to do that after the pandemic? It's great not having to go to an office. I'm vouch for that myself. So it really can be an economic development tool for the community. There's a tremendous workforce in these parts of the country that could serve to do customer service representatives for various industries. It's untapped because there's no networking in here that can get those. They can get the reliable high speed back and forth between the call centers and the remote employees.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that these networks can do. Do they do them all at this moment? No, but it's such an infancy where we are in EC Fiber. I don't think anybody's spent any time to sit there and say, okay, how has this impacted our citizenry? How has it impacted their ability to work remotely? Are there more employment opportunities because of that? And it's an interesting thing that I'll probably bring back to them.
So I will say, when I went there for a meeting, they finally lit the last town this past summer. And they had a little committee party for it, and they were talking about in one of the towns, they had seen one stretch of road that's just kind of been undeveloped for years, have, 2 new homes on it, people the age of, 40 and under with kids who are now going to those school systems, who are bringing the schools back to life, because a lot of towns are having to close their schools because there wasn't enough population to keep it up and running. So they've started to see, slow impacts like that, maybe not bigger businesses moving in as much, but those things come as people come, business comes to have customers. So those things do tend to happen. And I know you also were asking about marketing and just getting it out to people, and talk to a few things that we have done in other towns, if you guys would like, but. So we have had, and I have it in the car, I can bring it in if you won't let me run out to my car, but we have a little kiosk, which I know is sometimes, users don't know how exactly to use them, but, we set them up in the town halls or the libraries or things like that, once we kind of have an idea that you want to work with us and just seeing the interest of the towns. And on there, it would have a whole information sheet about what you currently have. Would you be likely to switch? What would make you switch? Why wouldn't you switch? Just questions. And again, those can be, I think we were talking about them, they can be very customizable to your town and whatever you guys see an interest in for that. We've also done things, just mailers. You'd be surprised just with like a QR code or something, or an easy access link for residents, or we've done door knockers before. or we'll have representatives from our company come up and go to festivals or go to, you know, what do we do in the town dump even on like on a big day where
Saturdays.
yeah, where people go and dump like certain
That's
things
huge.
or any kind of, yeah, right? Or like even the one day a year that they hold, like whether you can throw a paint. It's a big, you know, it's a big event and a lot of people in the town go and we just have a representative there or someone from your town there just talking about the efforts, giving the information and explaining it. Cause a lot of things that we found is education is super important because people don't understand what they have versus what they could have. And I know that, you know, being in the business, we talk a lot about broadbands and speeds and this and that, and people are like, what does it mean?
Well, I'm gonna jump in there, and just really quickly, there's a couple of questions in the chat that circle back to that.
Okay.
But I can actually speak to the difference between fiber and not fiber.
Perfect.
And Ken, I know I'm so glad that you get to hear this story from me again. At my camp, I have fiber, and at my regular home, I do not. And in order to upload a 1 hour meeting, not using fiber, it takes me 2 hours to upload a 1 hour meeting. Fiber, 4 minutes. That's what I'm talking about, folks.
Awesome. So that's a
It's a great example. Columbia is asking, since this is new to us, what information would we need to give to the citizens and how? And do you have info packets? And there is community interest now, but will there be community contribution in the future?
I think it depends on the model you go with as far as the community contribution, but what we've been seeing is, you know, we've tried to mitigate it. We understand that there's not, you know, we try to work with the towns, but it just depends on the fiber build and model and how many people are interested. And then we kind of gather that information, put together a proposed plan, and then sort of, you know, then again, how much grant money you get to depends on. So that isn't determined at this point, or we couldn't say yes or no, definitely for that. But we try to.
And I can give you a couple of examples of what we've done that might help, and I'll do it briefly so it doesn't bore everybody to death. The first model, the EC Fiber model, was they actually went out, besides the initial investment that we all made in it to get the project moving, eventually the bond markets loosened up a little bit and they went out and bonded the whole project. So the MUD bonded the entire thing. It's, you know, they own it, they run it, they have a management company coming in just manage it for them. The towns have their hands off, except for the fact that they're not really on the hook, because in Vermont, you cannot hold any taxpayers responsible for fiber to the home project, broadband projects. So the bonding companies really went out on a limb, but the project work, and they did that. So they're self-funded, the communities own it. They derive all the excess revenue out of it. In Lebanon, Massachusetts, they actually bonded the entire project. They own it. So we designed it and built it for them, and they own it. Again, they send it out. There's a management company that manages it for them. And Petersham, we did a public-private partnership with them. There's several pieces to building a network. So again, without getting into the weeds, in order to gain access to the poles, they have to make room for you on the poles. All the utilities that are on the poles now have to move around and make room, and that's a huge expense to the project. It can sometimes be as much as 50% of the entire cost. So what we did in Petersham, which is the public-private partnership, Petersham was responsible for that cost. So Petersham came up with the money the initial money to do the make ready, which I think was in the area of a little under $1 million. But there's a fee charged every month to each one of the residents that takes the service that goes directly back to the town that pays that back. It's going to take some time to pay it back. It's a long-term debt for them, but the fee goes back as a monthly, I forget what we call it, management fee, not a management fee, I forget what it was. And then Matrix put up the rest of the money to build it, and Matrix operates it. We have a 20-year commitment to them, and at the end of 20 years, they could buy the network for $1 from us. If they don't want to buy the network, which we don't think they're going to. But at any time along the path, they could buy the network as well. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go back and say the state of Massachusetts paid the Make Ready bill
Yes.
because they had broadband funds as well.
Yeah.
But now the town gets money back that goes into the coffers for that.
Let's see here. I had another question in the chat. Who would write these grants that you're talking about?
Well, we've done the grants that we're dealing with in the state now, and I'm not the biggest expert on them. Matt may know better than I do, and I thought Zach was gonna be on the call.
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure, go ahead, Matt. You're unmuted.
Indeed. Hi, I'm Matt. I didn't get to introduce myself. My name is Matthew Dunn. I'm here at Matrix. I would be handling, Zach and I and our team would be handling most of the GIS work, the background documentation, financial pro formas and modeling systems that go into the grant application. So yeah, we would be handling that.
So are you saying that in order for a town to commit to new fiber, they would need to sever? Oh, yeah, this is a very common question. They would need to sever their ties with what fiber is currently in the area. For example, the parts of the town that already have spectrum would need to end those services and the whole town's fiber would be redone. That's a very common question. And the answer is no.
That's correct.
If you want,
It's not a matter of severing your ties with spectrum. It's a matter of the town, the larger towns, the larger density towns saying, hey, we're gonna help out those towns that don't have these densities. There's 2 or 3 homes a mile. It's a grassroots effort. It's nothing more than that. Nobody needs to sign off of spectrum, but there needs to be a certain amount of interest in your network. And when I say your network, the community backed network, to make it work. Because a lot of these towns here, and I'm gonna be candid, I don't like being anything but at 3 homes a mile, that town's never gonna see service. Unless it's
Yeah.
part of some bigger conglomeration.
that's why we're all here.
Yeah.
And that's
Which is
fair,
great.
and it's, you know, in a town like Eastport, and a couple other towns here, I'm not picking on Eastport, but there's a couple other towns here, if they're involved, then these smaller towns have a chance. You're never gonna have a chance with spectrum, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
What you might see, because I've seen this too, and this is where Burlington Telecom, I don't know if you've heard of the Burlington Telecom project or not. Burlington Telecom went to Charter Communications back in 2007 and said, we want broadband, and Charter looked at them and said, no, we're not gonna do it.
Well, that's happened here too, but I just want to clarify for the person who asked the question. No, it's no different than what you have now. So you might have spectrum, your neighbor might have Consolidated or PDS or whomever. You pick who you want. It does not mean that you will only now have one choice. No. It's just another option running down those lines.
It happens to be the best option.
Well, I know a lot of people in the different towns in this group, there's a lot of people without internet that live in these towns.
Right,
That don't have access to any.
and we've seen that. We've seen that. But one of my favorite memories, if I can go back to EC Fiber, I was up a dirt road that was probably 3 miles from the main highway, and I literally was putting fiber to the home into a house that had no chance. They had no wireless, no, nothing. They could not get anything. And we put a fiber connection into that house, 3 young children. It was a gigabit symmetrical out there.
Oh, wow.
So it was a moment where I said, wow,
Yeah.
this is a fun business to be in.
So there's another question in the chat that so will there need to be a governing board or something like that with all these towns going in at once? Or would you have total control? And I think this stems back to the lack of interest in municipal ownership.
Yeah,
So it's a Matrix owned and operated model is really what
That's fine.
these money.
that's totally fine. The fact that there's a lot of grant money takes a lot of the financial responsibility off the towns because, again, these things are very expensive to build. Not to scare anybody away, the model that we use makes them, it's probably 1/3 the cost of what is model right now for fiber to the home, the way we do it. And it's
Okay.
100% the same fiber to the home you would see everywhere. We just came up with a little bit better way to do it. So again, with the grant monies available, no, absolutely not. There would not be any town commitment at all. Other than having everybody say, we want this, this is
All right,
ours,
let's do this. Yeah.
let's do this.
So let me just pause for a second. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to come off mute and ask or drop in the chat at all? Anybody who's?
I have one.
Go.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly, and this is foreign to me. So what we would need to do if we would like to entertain this in our community is get people to be aware of what we're offering, what you're offering. And what you're offering is another choice to bring internet into your homes. That is not only another choice, but also is going to give reliable internet,
Correct.
even if you live in the middle of
I
nowhere.
was gonna say, for some people, it's not going to be another.
It'll be the only,
Right.
the only, but I know certain people that have it and it's still awful, like it doesn't work most of the time. So this would not be that, this will work no matter
No, so,
what.
I can give you another first-hand example of, we had a hurricane come through our state. And we didn't get hit with the hurricane itself, but we got hit with the wind and the rain. I happened to be in an area that the power didn't go out. And there was 3 homes on my street with power. I had one of them. And I have fiber to the home. I have Fios, which is a fiber that goes right back to a building somewhere, not to an amplifier on the street. And if you notice, if you have cable television, you don't necessarily have to lose power to lose cable, because somewhere down the road, they lost power and the cable amp went out, and you're not gonna have cable till that power comes on.
Right.
So my neighbors all were sitting around without power and without a cable television, and I was sitting in my house with power watching TV, because I had fiber, which has there's no powered equipment between you and the central office, which is what you would have here, same circumstance. And that central office would have plenty of backup power generators and whatnot to keep the system up and running. The only thing that would take fiber down is if a tree came down, but that's taking everybody down.
Yeah.
And so this would go through the whole town, through all of the roads and all of the houses, every.
Yes, these
Not just on
densities,
corridor Route 1.
if every one of these towns was able to get the residents to commit at some level, taking service, we'll sign on. We'll do this. Everybody on this list that I have here of 20 towns would be able to get service.
I just want to throw this out to the group also. I didn't even introduce myself, but I'm the Affordable Connectivity Program Coordinator for Washington County. So I've been speaking with a lot of your communities about internet and affordable internet. There are a lot of younger generation, I would say 30 and below, that are considering moving due to the fact that they can't get internet where they live. I know some small businesses that can't get internet where they live and they have their shop at their house. Just giving that side of it too.
I think the pandemic taught us all of that. Kids being able to even learn,
Right.
so you got some homes that have, some homes where kids are able to do Zoom classes and some homes where they
Right.
can't. Well, how do you manage that? And then I think the experience in Jonesport, and I don't know about some of these other communities. And, full disclosure, I'm definitely from away. Yeah. But people moved to Jonesport during the pandemic. And they continue to want to do their, continue to do their business. I mean, I get more panic calls from people that are on this 187 corridor that are really, really worried about being able to work at their seaside summer home.
Or people who have bought their summer home, gone to move here and said,
Oh, shoot.
all right, but what do you mean there's internet?
But I think the piece that we need to be able to communicate is what does different look like and what is different going to cost me? So, and I don't know that you can answer that yet today, because there's still what model makes the most
Certainly
sense.
give
and-
you examples of what we've
Yeah.
done. The model that we're using in, help me with the towns again,
Oh, Fayette and Wilton.
Fayette, Wilton, there's a grant that's, we're still working on the details of it.
And
They're getting a grant through the state association. Matt, help me with that.
Main
MCA?
Connectivity Authority.
Yeah.
MCA,
MCA.
thank you. Part of that grant, it's a $62 a month service charge for the
Okay.
network.
And then there's also the ACP, I believe, that you can, sign up for, which would take care of $30 of it if you qualify for the
Right.
program. So then you're looking. at
Which
30.
most of our communities qualify.
Right, so then you're looking at
regardless of income,
$30
yeah.
off whatever choice of service you choose. So
Yeah.
you could even go higher and still get that 30, it just depends on.
There's actually a question in the chat that also has to do with pricing. What equipment would the citizens be responsible for, such as a modem, and is there a cost for that?
No, the modem comes with it, with the service. There is a wireless option that would cost a few more dollars to have monthly. And there's also a service plan and that could be implemented. These are all questions that we can answer going down the road. With the MCA grant, it's significant savings off of, as I told you, EC Fiber entirely self-funded. They're at about $100 a month for service. So a $62 monthly charge. That's in large part because of the amount of money that the state is willing to put into these things. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
Because they are capital intensive. It takes a lot to build these, and unfortunately with snowstorms and bad weather and trees coming down, which there's plenty of trees here, there's a lot of maintenance on them as well. So it's
There is a question, what happens if Eastport or Millbridge don't join? Does that end this whole venture for everyone else?
Well, we have to take a look at that. It's not that it makes it impossible, but it makes it more difficult. Like I said, there's a couple of areas here that are really remote that it may be more difficult for them. It's not insurmountable, but it may be
And I
difficult.
think we also don't have I know we're working on getting all of the information from every town. So we have what was available through our, I think it was E911 system. So we're working on like those unorganized area, getting more information from that, and then we can go from there too. So again, it's sort of fact finding at this point.
So I know that the supervisor of the UTs, he dropped, I know he's out of, he's out of the area, so I don't know if he dropped off.
Elaine,
Anyway,
can I talk to that for a minute?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so this is Ken. So I'm the chairman of the Eastport Fiber Optic Internet Committee. And I was gonna say reassure, but that's not really the right word. I would just share with the Western Washington County communities that you are as important to us as we potentially are to you, that the real power here is if all of our communities band together to implement a solution across the county. We are considered underserved and not unserved. And so that has an impact on us in terms of potential access to grant money. And so we're tremendously excited that you guys are having this conversation and that could, again, expand to really cover the county. That would put us, I think, in a great position with the Maine Connectivity Authority, because they're really looking to provide regional solutions and not just onesies here and there. And I think that from a business standpoint, I mean, it makes us then more attractive and viable for Matrix to really work with us, because again, it's not Bob sitting in his cabin deciding whether he wants internet. It's all of us as communities across the county.
Who's Bob?
Yeah.
Well, but.
So I'm sorry, I should have said
No, but
Bob.
It's true, Bob's your uncle. Now, he says that all the time. So that is absolutely true. This is to Ken's point, this is why we're all here, because we all need each other in this. And if Washington County isn't something else, it's, pretty tight. So there was another question in the chat that I think we can answer pretty quickly. Was that if Chris keeps falling off. So Joanne, so the question is, who would administer this ISP if it got that far? And in the model of Matrix owns and operates,
Correct.
Matrix would take care of it the same ways the same Spectrum does now.
Correct.
Joanne, you're not gonna be out there in a snowstorm bringing that file.
I'll give you a little bit of my own personal experience. I have FiOS at my home. And I unfortunately have cable television at another location. I get YouTube TV at my house and over that fiber network. It is absolutely superior to what I receive over the cable network in that it's portable. I can watch it here right now. I can take it wherever I want to go with it. It's got a built-in DVR. There's no equipment that I'm renting from the cable company. It's just, it has got fiber to the home, and the video offerings over fiber have come so far. And in just the past 5 years, that it is a superior product to what Spectrum is offering at this point. So it's really seamless.
I think the biggest challenge is gonna be actually explaining what fiber is, because I mean, I've learned a lot sitting here now, but I would not be able to explain
Right.
anything to anyone.
We certainly have material that can explain it in very layman terms, because again, like, you know, I've been his daughter my whole life, and I've been in this business for a bit, but there are still things that I don't even understand that I sit there and I'm like, okay, let's digest that. Let's try to find a new way to spin it and explain to people. One of my favorite broadband analogies is like highways on a car, or lanes on a highway and cars. So like, you know, the more cars, the more lanes you need. And then, you know, that doesn't always help. Then you need things like traffic lights and you know, things like that to sort of ebb and flow all of the information. And that's sort of what broadband does and helps. And like, you know, the more equipment you put onto something, the more lanes you're gonna need. So it's, you know, we have ways of explaining it that can not confuse. But it's basically just like, it's really, really fast. You know, what do you want? Do you want it now? Then fiber.
And Ken, I agree with you. I think the best mechanism for all of our towns to get service to those that are truly unserved, but they live in a underserved community, is to band together. The piece that I'm still wrestling with a little bit is everybody sees the infrastructure bill and the monies that has been awarded to states. What are the individual towns going to have to put up to help fund this? And where does the equity lie in that activity?
Thank you.
Someone's.
I think that'll vary by community. I know that from an Eastport perspective, we know that any whiff of this raising taxes would be a killer. And
Yeah.
we've made the commitment to our city council that we will not bring to them a recommendation to proceed if it's going to cost the city to raise the taxes. That said, going into debt without clear visibility to how that debt would be paid off is also a killer. And one of the things we found attractive by Matrix is they truly have a great deal of flexibility in terms of how they would engage with any given community. Everything from they're going to implement and they're going to own the network. And so the city would have no involvement, would not be collecting any fees. It would be kind of a traditional, if you will, ISP relationship with the benefits of fiber end to end. All the way to if the city really felt compelled to manage it themselves and, you know, and have their own little city fiber office and so forth, that they would provide technical support, you know, by arrangement, obviously, and the city could have their hands as deep in the guts as they wanted to. From Eastport perspective, we don't have the technical capabilities. We don't have the budget to fund that kind of thing. And I think that if we were to decide we had to manage it, it would set us up for failure pretty quickly. We just don't have the wherewithal to really make that happen. And so again, partnering with someone like Matrix really holds out viability for us in terms of getting fiber, which is critical. And our committee used to be called the Broadband Committee. And a year and a half ago, we changed the name to the Fiber Optic Internet Committee, specifically to preclude needing to entertain suggestions that we should go with any kind of cable backbone to do this. So if your system depends on cable for any part of it, we're not interested. It's not what we want. We don't want you to stick a couple new parts on the engine of your 1956 Ford. We want a new car. We want a new engine. We want new technology. We don't want, the 27th upgrade to the software that allows that technology to function. And so fiber all the way is where we really want to go.
Now, we've been talking about to the home. What is the business model for this too? Because one of the people on our committee owns a business, and that's why he's so interested in what can be done, is how can his business get supported as well? Have you guys?
It's the same model.
The same solution.
It's the
really
same model?
serves
Okay.
everyone.
Okay,
So to
Our
every home and
conversation
every
with Matrix
business.
and others have been.
Yeah.
that,
yeah,
So it's fiber
We're
to
looking
every
for
home
service
and
to
every
every home
business
and every
that wants
business.
it.
yeah,
That
yeah.
wants it.
Yeah.
So I had Spectrum on my house yesterday. My internet went out. How would that work if my internet goes out? And
So-
Matrix is our,
Our ultimate goal here is to create a community project.
Yeah,
So it'll be, if all the communities sign on to this, the entire county, depending on how big this network is, we'll have people from the
Okay.
community that live and work here every day. This is not something, you can't do this remotely. There are certain things we can do remotely. We can manage the actual network remotely, and that's an economy of scales thing.
yeah.
That we just have our staff that receives the network, because you can dial in and do that from any.
right,
But from a service call perspective, there will be local employees here all the time.
Right, and we would, anyone that was interested too, like, we could always train, help them
Right.
understand the network, and then it's kind of providing a little bit more jobs to the community through our.
The whole point of what we're doing, I love this business. I've been in it a long time, and I love the idea of the rural communities getting in a better position. It needs even some of the suburban communities where we are, because what Verizon did, they came in and started building Fios, and then they stopped.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna do that anymore. We're gonna do 5G, which is presenting issues now because there's such a potential cancer risk with it. So those communities are dealing with cable television.
Yeah.
I like the idea of saying, hey, we can get broadband anywhere in this country. It's provided we get everybody to sign on and say, we're involved, we're in. To Ken's point about Eastport and the rest of the communities. If Matrix was to come in here and put together the grant application and get the grant money, that's one big pile of money there. It's no longer money for this town, money for that town, money for those that are underserved, as opposed to, that all goes into the budget of building this network. And that's how we figure out how much it costs, and at the end of the day, what we need to do as a company.
So recognizing that, these, and you've got places to be, and these folks here are also working and doing stuff. So this is all being recorded now, and it's going to be provided to all the communities, including the few that were unable to attend today, to take back to your select boards and your residents to discuss, listen to. So if these communities want to learn more, if there's interest, but we still want to know more, what are their next steps? What are next steps for these communities?
I guess it
And me.
would we start doing obviously you can ask us questions, if there's just a question or a one-off here, but would we start with the letter of support for these towns?
Sure. Well, jumping ahead from that, I think that what we could do is put together an email address specifically to the leadership in the towns to open-ended questions they could ask of us, over the next few weeks or so. That way we can address any concerns that may come up from it. But to Lauren's point, we do need, in order to apply for the grant funding, there is a considerable amount of time and effort that's required on the engineering side and on the financial side to build out all those models. And in order to apply for the grant funds, the state, the requirement is that we do need to have written authorization of a letter of support in order to do that. So that would be really the next lift, the next step. But in the interim, we can certainly open up a phone line and an email address and address all of those concerns in writing.
Is there a
If I
template for
if I can
this
talk to
letter of
peers and
support?
communities out there,
Yeah.
don't get concerned that this is gonna commit you right out the gate
No.
to some
Absolutely.
fantastic amount of
Yeah.
money. It does not. It is simply an expression of official community support to continue to explore what the options are and what those models look like, both on the matrix and the community side.
Correct.
We had a workshop with our city council to get them on board with that. And then they
Yeah.
presented, voted on, and passed a motion for us to be able to get that signed.
Yeah, we will walk very slowly along with all the steps, because there's steps that we need to follow as well, and there's milestones to the 50% take rate we can talk about at some point. We need to make sure that that modeling works with our model, and everything is contingent upon everything. Nobody's committed to anything at this point, and it doesn't cost anybody any money to do that. This is something that we come in and we'll help the towns and the communities as much as we can. We've got plenty of back office support that we can help you guys go through this. We can't help you with convincing the residents that this is best for them, but
Yes.
we'll do the best we can.
So I'm going to suspect, and I'm gonna suspect that the towns are gonna come back with additional questions.
Yes.
And so if the towns determine that they would like to, of course, we're not gonna ask you to fly here again.
Oh, I don't mind at all.
But if it is very beautiful here, that if they wanted to say, hey, look, okay, we're interested in hearing more, but here are our questions. Can we talk on Zoom about this? Is that something?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, it's on frequent.
And when we have no issues in coming for a meeting, we have no, if you wanted to have some kind of town organization or some, community get together, we would be delighted to do that.
yeah, perfect.
We're part of the process as well.
Great. So here's what I would ask from the communities in attendance. Sorry, that was covered over. 1 second, because there's something in the chat there I didn't see. Yeah, okay, so we need a questionnaire or information packet, not only for citizen input, but to get our selectmen to understand. Information packets, you had PowerPoints that you were going to.
Yeah.
send.
I can give you these PowerPoints for you.
I can gather them up.
There's a lot-
Get more information.
There's a lot of equipment in here that.
Well, maybe something pared down then, like
Maybe.
just kind of, maybe something pared down.
Zach can show.
And then
Zach gives all the information he's.
so also to that point, because Eastport is further along than all of us are right now. That the folks here, Lauren and I've forgotten your name. Ron. Sorry,
Her dad.
Laura and her dad have brought a kiosk. And Laura made mention to that earlier. She has one in her car. That's going to be installed at Eastport City Hall so that the residents can come in and poke these buttons and say, no, I'm not happy with my internet or whatever. I'm only willing to pay this much a month, or all the towns can create their own questions. So if the communities want to do this outreach, so that's something, I just feel like another meeting is probably needed. I don't know what the towns here are thinking. So what I would ask from the towns is, take a look at this. It's been a lot to digest. And then you can let me know if your select board is saying, okay, but we'd like to meet with them again and here are our questions. Or if you take it back to your town, they say, no harm, no foul, we'll sign the letter, then just reach out to me and just say, the select board wants the letter. So either way, I'm going to take direction from all of you. If your community says to heck with it, then just let me know.
And Elaine, since you've had visibility to everything we've been doing, I mean, whatever our committee in Eastport can do to share knowledge, share information, share experience, share stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great.
With any of those communities, please don't hesitate to reach out to Elaine and she'll engage me and we're willing to talk with anybody out there and help in whatever way we can.
Eastport's been at this for a long time. Link to website or anything? Yeah, that's a great question, Joanne. A link to a website or anything that they can post to the town website or town Facebook page. So if you shoot that to me, I'll make sure everybody gets
Perfect.
Fair enough? Great question. Another great question from,
I would say that's probably gonna be asked about surveys and stuff too.
yeah, so that's,
Once we create it, we can post it to any social media forum, our town website, the kiosks can do it, it can be like, pushed out if the residents are putting their emails, getting a push notification or an email or, blast. We've done all of that with other towns too, so it's very easy for us to do.
so basically what we need to know at this point from this region is, do you want to hear more, kind of more drilled down stuff from these guys? Or if your community says, hey, if it's not gonna cost us anything to have this checked out and we're willing to sign the letter because there's no cost, no obligation to it, then just reach out to me, tell me what you want to do. And that's all I can ask of you guys. And
Matt, what are the timeframes for the next round of grant funding?
They have not put it out, but I suspect that it would be probably sometime in mid Q1 2024 that the application would open. It's usually about a 4 to 6 week period.
Great.
So that's kind of the time is of the essence to get.
Well, yeah.
Temperature of the world, make sure everybody wants to be on board with it.
are you talking about BEAD funding?
The next round of Connect the Ready, it depends on what happens with cohort 2 and how much actually goes under contract and gets sent out.
Yeah, because BEAD is nowhere near. Hold on, there's a question here or a comment. Okay. What? It's a pain in the butt when I can't see it. Template letter of support to send out.
Yeah, we have one that we've used for other towns, and
Yeah.
you've seen it, the Eastport one.
Yep, yes, there is. Yep. So I have a feeling I'm going to be getting a bunch of stuff from Matrix that I'm going to be sending out to all of you. And this along with this recording. And so that's really what all I want to know from you guys. When you take this back to your communities, is how does your community want to proceed? Do you want to meet with them again? Do you, whatever?
I feel like you need to give a time frame on that.
A time frame?
Yep.
Oh, goodness. What would you suggest? That's a good idea. What would you suggest for a time frame?
I don't want to do that part.
Well, I know that the select boards don't meet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll need a few weeks anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Last night.
So yeah, that's a very good point on both of because you're every other week, yours is every other week. Not all communities meet weekly. So it's a great point. And so I don't know, what's 3 weeks from now?
I'm looking.
You could do like a November 1st or November.
November 1st. How about if you communities let me know by November 1st? Great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
And this is why we all need to work together. So that all being said, thank you very much for attending. And I'm gone. Any more questions for these guys before they head out to Eastport? Thank you all so very, very much, and I look forward to hearing from your towns. Let's see here, by November 1st. With whatever